This is Algebra 1, Lesson 17C, the distributive property. Example 17.1 through 17.4. For example 17.1, use the distributive property to find the value of 4 times the quantity 6 minus 2 plus 5 minus 7. Notice when I said the quantity, that let you know that 4 is being multiplied by something in parentheses. Now, we are going to use the distributive property only because they tell us to. If I were doing this problem and the directions did not say how to do it, I would do all of this inside first and then multiply it by the 4. But since we just learned about the distributive property, they want you to show that you understand how to do it, and we're going to do it that way. So we're going to multiply the 4 by the 6, but we're not going to stop there, are we? We're going to do every term. Okay, every term by that 4. So when I do the 4 times the 6, I get 24. Bring down my minus. 4 times 2 is 8. Bring down the plus. 4 times 5 is 20. Bring down the minus. And 4 times 7 is 28. Now I can combine those. And I've got 24 minus 8, which would be 16. 16 plus 20, which would be 36, and 36 minus 28, which would be 8. So your answer to this example is 8. Now, if we look at 17.2, we're going to use the distributive property to expand this. Now, we couldn't do this without the distributive property because we don't know what the values of x, y, and p are. So we couldn't work this out any other way. We would have to use the distributive property. So we're going to multiply every term by mn. What do you think mn times x is? Whoops. It's just mnx, right? Now I'm going to multiply it by y, and I'm going to bring down that plus sign. So that's going to be mny. Now I'm going to multiply it by the 2p, and I'm going to bring down that plus sign. Now remember, we normally put that 2, any numbers, out in front. So we're going to move the 2 out front, and then we'll have mnp. And then we look to see, is there anything we can add? But there's not, okay? mnx's would have to only add with mnx's, and we don't have any more. So there are no like terms here, and we'll learn about that in a later lesson. But that is your answer. It's as far as you can go. 17.3, use the distributive property to expand. Now this looks similar to the last one, but do you notice something? They moved what's being multiplied to the end, but that's okay. We can still do it. We still have to multiply it times every term that we have. So let's multiply it by the first term. mp times x would be mpx. Bring down the minus. mp times 3y, we'll put the 3 out front, and then we'll have mpy. You could have put ymp, and that would be fine. I typically like to keep them in alphabetical order, but that's okay. Remember, we can multiply in any order. We've got xz times mp, so I'm going to do mpxz. And then that's it. There's nothing else that we can do there. So that is our final answer. Now we go to 17.4. Use the distributive property to expand. Now there's something a little different here, and there's 2 different ways to think about it. So we're going to think about this in 2 different ways. First, let's think about this as opposite. Okay, so we're going to think about this as the opposite of 3 times 2x minus 4. Okay, so let's just do the 3 times 2x minus 4 like we've just learned to do. 3 times 2x is 6x. Bring down the minus, and 3 times 4 is 12. But we know we want the opposite of that. So we're going to take the opposite of 6x, which would be negative 6x, and the opposite of minus 12, which would be plus 12. And this would be your answer. Okay? But there's a different way of thinking about this as well. You can think of distributing the negative 3. This is a different way of thinking about it. but it works as well. So think of the negative 3 together as a negative instead of thinking of it as opposite. And we're going to multiply it by the 2x. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, and then times the x, which is just x. Then, like always, I bring down this minus sign, or whatever symbol is there. And then I'm going to do negative 3 times 4. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. Okay? And when I get this, I can say, wait, that's the same as negative 6x plus the opposite of negative 12, which would be a positive 12. And see, either way you think of it, you get the same answer.